Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all the little animals gathered around the radio or your streaming device, digital, your iPhone, perhaps your tablet. We are back. That's right. Guess what? Garden America, John. And
What?
You didn't think it would happen. We are back for our Saturday show here. Happy weekend. I'm Brian Main, Tiger Palafox. John Bagnasco, or as we like to call him affectionately, Johnny Boy, is with us. We're JB, Johnny Boy's with you. Hope you had a good week. We kick off the weekend in style. We have a lot of energy. We've got a great guest lined up. My gosh, can things get better, Tiger?
No.
See?
And I hate to say it, but the weather is beautiful here in San Diego.
Now, who's having the rain? Is that part of California?
That's
Northern California.
So that means that we are in store for rain, maybe?
Well, I hope so, because we need more rain.
Yeah.
Did you get any at all this week? We had a tiny sprinkle.
We had a day
one
that
night.
it kind of spit.
I woke up one morning and the ground was wet.
That's about it. Right.
Is that the beginning of a book? I woke up one morning and the ground was wet.
No, it should be. It was a dark and stormy
night.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way that, what's his name, always starts, Snoopy. Always started his books that
It's
way.
a dark and stormy
Red
night.
Baron books.
For your Snoopy fans out there, your peanuts, Charles Schultz. So let's go to John first.
Yeah.
Capsulize your week, John. What did you do? What did you get accomplished?
Planted 2 trees.
Those redwoods you were talking
Actually,
about.
2.5 trees, no redwoods.
Okay.
I planted cedar of Lebanon.
That sounds like the name of a rose.
No, it sounds like the name of a tree to me.
That's a perfect name for a tree. It's a cedar
Cedar
of Lebanon.
But doesn't that sound impressive?
Well, yeah, the name sounds very
Like
impressive.
a Lebanese cedar is no big deal, but a cedar of Lebanon.
It's all marketing,
that's
right?
a big deal.
It's marketing.
They're in the Bible. Did you know that?
Absolutely.
Cedars of Lebanon.
Yep.
I think they're mostly gone now, been chopped down. Very slow growing. They're kind of, for a conifer, they're tender, cold sensitive, but the variety, and we don't have to worry in San Diego, but if you're in the colder areas of the country and you want to plant cooler areas, I should say, not Minnesota. If you're in Bemidji, just forget about it. But the variety I planted was called Eugene, and it came from Oregon, a nursery in Oregon.
Eugene, Oregon, right?
Right. That's where the name comes from, not just because they said, okay,
Eugene,
what's
you
your
get this
brother's
tree.
name? So that variety, they put in 100 seedlings, and 99 of them died. This one lived, so it's cuttings off that particular one.
It's a special one, right?
Yeah, so it's a little bit hardier. And then the other tree I planted was, what was it? Oh, a fringe tree.
Oh, French flower?
That's what it's called?
French tree.
A fringe tree, Chinese fringe tree.
Not as impressive as Cedar of Lebanon.
Yeah, right? See, that's...
Well, this one was named after the TV show Fringe. No, not really.
No.
But there's two basic types of fringe trees used in the landscape. One is Ceanothus virginicus, which has got really impressive flowers.
Not to be confused with Ceanothus, right?
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Not at all. It's
One starts with
Ceanothus.
a K, one starts with a C.
Yeah, not even in the same ballpark.
No, they both start with C's.
What?
Do they?
I thought the
Ceanothus
was the K.
Ceananthus is
Oh, it's a hard C.
it's CH.
Yeah.
And in Greek, the CH is always pronounced is a hard K. The only time now that we're getting into this, Brian, and you've always asked me
Our
this.
Latin lessons.
Yeah, the only time in a scientific name that CH is pronounced soft rather than with the K sound is if it was named after a French person or something like that. But anyway, back to
That was second year of Greek for John.
I only had 1 year of Greek in college.
That's what he learned in the second year.
Wow.
And I told you the reason I took Greek in college was because I was majoring in accounting at the time.
It was for your benefit.
It was to raise my GPA because I was getting C's and D's in accounting, but I took Greek and got a 4 point.
Gosh.
So raised it. But anyway, Ceananthus virginicus is the hardy variety of fringe tree. But the one that I planted was Ceanothus retusus, which is a larger fringe tree, smaller flowers, but still extremely impressive. They're deciduous trees, and I would say it's a medium-sized tree, kind of slow growing, but really, really pretty when they're in bloom. So
Okay.
those were the two. Then I dug a hole for a third, which when we go home today, I'll plant the bubblegum tree.
Oh yeah, you had a bubble gum tree at your old house, didn't you?
No,
I feel like you always talked about it.
Now, is this the bazooka bubblegum tree or the double bubblegum tree?
We remember the bubblegum tree is a tree from Africa that they chew on the fruit and
Right.
like gum.
Great.
So interesting to see that. I don't think it was great. But we had someone on our show, I think it was during COVID. It might have been prior to COVID, and they grew they sold African seeds. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah.
Can't remember the name of the company.
Yeah.
But anyway, the bubblegum tree was one of the trees that I bought a package of, and I gave one away. I still have one, and this one I'm going to plant in the ground.
All right. So there was John's week.
So that's it. 3
Capsulized
trees.
in a nutshell. Why is everything in a nutshell? Speaking of nuts.
What other kind of shell would you put in? A clam shell? Like encapsulized?
Well, it's an old expression. I love the origins of expression.
You've always tried to put Dana in a pumpkin shell.
Pumpkin shell.
Yeah, she always puts up a fuss.
Well,
though, right?
I got in a big fight with Peter.
Well, he was. Yeah. You know what I say about Peter? He's nothing but a pumpkin eater.
Exactly. What's wrong with you? Yeah, we're off to a silly start today. Fringe
Lila-
blooms are also fragrant.
That's what Lila
Yeah.
says. Yeah.
So there you go. People are listening, just when you think nobody's listening.
So we got to watch what we say.
Yeah.
But they're also like 20, 30 feet up in the air. I don't know how you would tell they're fragrant unless you get up on a ladder.
Speaking of 20 feet up in the air.
But mine is small now, so when it blooms, I'll be able to smell it.
Okay, can we keep that as a soundbite for later on? just that right there. I'm going to isolate that and use it as a promo. for
I'm
Garden
just going to
America.
talk to Hastam over in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Hastam, good morning. Good morning to Daniel, our webmaster. Everybody's tuned in. Daniel tunes in to kind of watch over us, to make sure we say the right things,
Exactly.
to make sure we give the website enough, gardenamerica.com.
Yeah.
He's like the chaperone overseeing the
He
show.
is our chaperone.
Big time.
I like it.
We
Carla's
appreciate it.
eggs are scrambled. But, we don't care what state you're in.
Yeah, exactly.
If your eggs are scrambled, you're welcome
You're
to listen
fine.
anyway.
We don't judge. This is a no judgment zone.
Speaking of eggs, now that you brought it up, Brian, I had to hard boil a dozen eggs yesterday because we have so many eggs from our chickens that we're just not using them fast enough.
Bring him here.
Do you want some eggs?
Absolutely.
Really? I'll bring them.
Bring him. 2 weeks from now because we're off next week.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew we were off.
We're
one
off
week.
the next week, and then you're off the week after.
No, I'm not.
Oh, no, you're not. You are going to make it to the Hawaii.
Right, but I will be off the week
Following
after that because I'll be in Hawaii.
But we're just off next week and then back.
Carla sent me a whole itinerary.
Oh, good. What is she, your new travel agent?
Well, she checked out Kona before me because she was there
She was
during
there.
December, right? And she gave me all the hot spots and the cool spots, best shave ice and things like that.
Thanksgiving all dear respected program presenters from Hastam. Wow, Hastam, thank you for that.
Yeah.
That was written brilliantly.
Dana wants eggs.
Told you. We've got a cockatiel, a female who's trying to lay eggs. They're not fertile, obviously, but they go through this little routine where she sits down in her little food dish and starts squirming, making these noises. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I feel kind of voyeuristic when I watch her.
So, Tiger, what did you do this?
Yeah, exactly.
You do any gardening this week?
We got about a minute and a half before the break.
Yeah.
So whatever
wrap
you
it
want to
up.
say, and John's quote of the week, if we can, before we get our guest
Is
on.
John ready with the quote of the week?
I'm always ready.
Yeah, yeah. I think we should do John's quote of the week. And then we're going to bring on
Danielle.
our guest, Danielle.
Beautiful.
I'm excited to talk with Danielle Moher about landscape design.
And by the way, welcome to those on Biz Talk Radio. This is a pre-recorded show from last week, but you're always invited to join us on Facebook Live. Go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show. John?
The quote's from Aldo Leopold, the ecologist.
Leopold.
And he said, "The last word in ignorance is the man who says of an animal or a plant, what good is it?"
That's old Leopold for you, right?
No, Aldo. Leopold.
Aldo Leopold.
Yeah, not Aldo.
I just said Leopold.
You said old.
Wow. And to think that he spent an hour writing this out
Why
this
don't
morning.
we take a break?
This is John's material for the
and
show.
then go take two after the commercial.
You know what? You're right. We're going to take John's advice. Take a break. Our first break of the day, the morning, whenever you're listening to us. Garden America, I'm Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox. We're going to be taking a break, as John mentioned, got the quote out of the way. Back with Danielle, our guest. Those on Facebook Live, questions, comments, you bet, right here on Garden America. Welcome back to the show. We hope you had a good break as we try to enjoy our breaks here on Garden America. It is, well, if you're listening to us, watching us live, it is Saturday morning. Otherwise, a pre-recorded show. No matter how you're listening, Spotify, could be Alexa, could be a lot of things. We'll get into that later. Right now, though, Danielle is ready to go, Tiger. And again, those on Facebook Live, questions, comments, right there on the comment page.
Yeah, this morning we're going to be chatting with Danielle Moher with Botanically Crafted Designs, a new friend of our program. Danielle's an experienced landscape designer and installer here in Southern California. Wow. Big deal, because it's one thing to design a landscape, but it's another thing to actually be able to take it to fruition and install it. Good morning, Danielle. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so, Danielle, your background in the landscape industry has covered so much to be able to kind of allow you to have the experience and the knowledge that you have, starting off working with landscape, companies, landscape maintenance companies, working with clients on putting small projects together to big projects. But that's not what you've always wanted to do, right?
Yeah, I actually, my bachelor's degree is from San Diego State. I went to school for public administration and urban studies. I did an emphasis in city planning. Then thought I would dabble in real estate. That worked out for a short time period. And then I actually thought I wanted to be a nurse, believe it or not. Got into nursing school, and about right as I started, I was like, I don't want to do this. Fell in love with plants. I actually started following around, I'm sure you guys have heard Deborah Lee Baldwin.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Fell in love with everything she touched, all her seminars, her talks in front of at nurseries. So that was actually how I started my love for the landscape field. And then from there, went back to school for an associate's degree in landscape architecture, and then got into actually more working for residential landscape architects, and then found my way to design field, which I fell in love with. So Now here I am, 12, 13 years later, as a landscape contractor.
So now when you're tired of this, what are you going to do?
Yeah, great question. I am in love with the field. I love being a landscape contractor. I love working with clients. I love the conception all the way to the completion. It's amazing to see just the process, learning about people, their likes, their wants, and what their expectations are, and then actually bringing that to life. So
yeah, so now this is what you do on a daily basis, as far as visit people's homes, talk to them, see what they want, helping install their landscape. So part of the reason why we brought you on the program today was to kind of give some insight into our listeners about what they can expect from the process with you, or maybe other landscape designers that they're going to work with, or maybe just projects on their own. What are some things that you would recommend people do if they're looking to do a landscape project? Where should they start? What should they kind of start to think about?
Yep. So there is a ton of homework to be done. If you are building the project yourself, I think starting with your local water authority, starting on their websites, going to local design chapters, seeing what the process is all about. The design phase is the most important, right? We can't go out in the field as a contractor and build a project without a plan. Whether you're doing the plan yourself or you're using a designer, it is the most important aspect of the project. I think, doing a lot of research, so starting, I know this is heard all over the world, but starting with, I'm going to reference San Diego in particular. There's a course called the Water Smart Landscape Makeover Program. It's funded by the County of San Diego Watershed Protection Program. That is a great start to just jump on their website and take a look at handbooks, seeing how, just start to finish, starting with a plan, all the different aspects of the actual process, irrigation, planting, what to look for, what questions to ask the designer. If you are using a designer, prepare a list of questions. Ask that designer to see completed, designs that they've done, or maybe completed installation projects if they're a design build company. I do really like promoting design build firms, especially if you're just starting out and you are using a licensed landscape contractor to build the project, because it allows you to kind of ask the designer through the design phase, okay, budget questions, construction questions. There's a lot more that they can provide, a first-time homeowner, let's say, that's starting a new landscape project, what they can expect.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. I get a lot of clients that will ask, well, can I send you my house board, or can I send you my Pinterest? I have seen sometimes over 150 images in those. Keep it simple, 10 to 15 images. Focus on different aspects. Okay, you like these plants. You like this overall style of this garden. You like that hardscape material, maybe a paver or flagstone. Minimal is actually better. So I think that's another great aspect before you're meeting with the designer, and just that checklist. Important questions that you're thinking through, going on different sites, YouTubing. There's a lot of work when it comes to installing a landscape project.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like hiring a landscape designer is like hiring a builder for your house, right? Because you work with them, you tell them what you want, and then they go ahead and give you the tools to do it. Same thing for a landscape designer.
Yep, exactly. I think that's one thing I'm always telling my clients too. If you're not going to go out and buy, $20,000 worth of cabinet to go put in your kitchen, right? I mean, you need some type of plan. You need some type of outline for the project.
Well,
so I think that's,
Well, I think that one thing also you mentioned that I want to make sure our listeners caught was, there's a couple different options out there. Like what you mentioned as far as design builder. That is someone that's going to meet with you, talk about your dream, put it together for you, and then they're going to be the person building it, installing it, creating it down the road. And that allows you to develop that relationship from start to finish. Nowadays, with the beauty of online magic, but at the same time the curse, there's a lot of companies out there that say, take a picture of your backyard. We will design it for you. And then you have this design to now go hand to a landscape installer, and they'll create it for you, right? Well, the problem with that is that now your designer and your installer are removed from each other. And sometimes there's things that maybe the designer was not aware of, or, the builder needs more clarification on, and it's going to be kind of a challenge, and they're going to have two conflicting views sometimes. So if you can find a design build group that you enjoy working with, that's a great way to go, because they're going to help you all the way through. Hey, Danielle, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll continue chatting with Danielle with Botanically Crafted Designs.
You bet. Do stay with us, obviously. Got to take a quick break. As Tiger mentioned, the break will be a little bit longer for our friends on our affiliates nationally on Biz Talk Radio. Those on Facebook Live, though, questions, comments from one of us, or of course Danielle, is more than welcome. So do stay with us. Brian Main, John Begnasco, Tiger Palafox taking a break for our friends and these messages on Biz Talk Radio. All righty, Garden America is back from that fantastic break. Those on Biz Talk Radio, much appreciated, much obliged, as we say, for tuning in each and every week, and those of you on Facebook Live as well. Landscaping, landscape architects, plannings, visions, can it come to life? Is it realistic, Tiger? Let's find out more.
Yeah, before the break, we were chatting with Danielle about, some things that people want to plan for in getting started with a landscape project or landscape designer. And, I had mentioned the difference between a design build, landscape architect, landscape designer, and then you got your installers. And then, Danielle, another benefit of working with a design build person is during the design phase, that person has great experience with their past projects about, plants that were successful or not successful, or aspects of the design that were really good or maybe not really good once they actually installed it, right? Like they're going to have real life information about your design.
Yep. I mean, at that point, the contractor is probably, installing projects real time, right? They're probably on other projects at the time they're designing this. So, yeah, I do really promote design build companies. You had touched on a little while ago, Tiger, about, using someone that you're not meeting in person. That's an interesting way of doing a design. I am very hands-on. I have no idea how I would complete that without being in front of my client. Making sure that I'm seeing them face to face. I'm walking in their house. What are they seeing inside their house? What are they looking at from windows inside their house, right? Is there a tree? Is there something they want to screen? Really important, too, is a scaled plan. Someone's coming out, measuring your property, putting it on paper, starting, a concept plan in person with you, going over, the overall design style that they have for the project. But then also taking that and being able to, and this is really key, is budget, is being able to properly estimate that. Mm-hmm. Without a scaled plan, you cannot properly estimate. So I think that's really important. I think across the board, costs have gone up. So, am I looking at 100 square feet of flagstone? Am I looking at 300 square feet of flagstone? So those details are very important. I also have seen a big increase in just a lot of hands-on with the designer. So let's say a designer that I know refers to me and I bid the project. So I'm only there to do the construction aspect. A lot of those designers they're stopping by, multiple times throughout the project. Okay, is this really what I visioned for the project? What day are plants coming? I want to be there to spot them. Being on the actual property, site conditions, things change, right? Yeah. So that availability from the designer or, the design build contractor is important. Yeah. It's very important.
And this seems all like a lot of work. And whether you're working with a designer, installer, or whether you're doing this yourself, I feel like sometimes people find it a challenge to stay motivated, moving forward, to keep the momentum of starting a project and actually finishing it. Right. What are some things that help you do that, keep motivated, or what are some things that you recommend for people to do to stay motivated on their projects? Because they can get overwhelming.
Very. So I think if you're doing it yourself, a project checklist and a project a construction calendar, let's say, schedule. Even as a contractor, that's exactly, once the project's bid, the client accepts, that's the first thing I'm looking at is the construction calendar. Timelines. Do you have lead times on material? Are these plants available? I am a very, as you guys know, botanically crafted. I love plants. So are those plans available if I'm selling this project in 2 months versus 3 months? So things like that, having that calendar, that construction schedule is very important, whether you're doing it yourself or you're using a contractor. If you're using a contractor, ask questions. What is this construction process going to look like? What can I expect the first 2 weeks, right? Okay, what is the demolition, grading? What do those phases look like? How long do you think it'll take that you'll need my driveway to install new pavers? So having that checklist calendar, being organized so that you can foresee what's going to be happening during the construction process. Reasonable goals, expectations, and patience are also very important. If you're doing the project yourself, you're not a landscape contractor. So, be patient, understand that things come up, right? Whether you're just digging a hole and you hit a huge boulder or whatever it may be, rain. There's a lot of unforeseen things, especially when you start getting underground. So I think just being reasonable, being patient, setting goals, setting timelines is important. But overall, just being ready to possibly foresee that it may not go as smoothly as you think, and being prepared for that.
Yeah, one thing that I kind of talk to people about, because whenever they're thinking about doing a project, you think about all the cool parts of the project, planting the plants.
Yeah, the fun parts.
The fun parts,
Yeah.
laying the pavers, planting the plants, doing all that fun stuff, right? But the one part that they don't ever see is the moving of gravel or sand or bark or whatever it is from your front yard to your backyard, or those pavers or those pieces of sod, and how much time that actually takes. So they say, I'm just putting down sod. It'll take me no time to just lay these pieces of sod out in my backyard, right? Like I could do a pallet of sod and just lay it out, no big deal, right? Well, they don't realize that sod is sitting at their curb, and they have to load it in a wheelbarrow. They have to bring that wheelbarrow to the backyard. They got to lay out those pieces. Then they got to go back out to the front yard, and that doubled their project time. So now what they were going to do in a day is now taking 2 days.
Yep.
And now they don't have that second day because they've got soccer, baseball, whatever. And they're like, oh no. And so they forget about those little time eaters, that moving of material, or, like what you mentioned, running into a rock or a broken pipe that has to get repaired, and now it requires 3 trips to the hardware store because you don't have what needs to be repaired. I think that you're mentioning of patience isn't just patience in it's patience in life, right, Danielle? Like you have to just go with it. Like you have to fix that pipe. That rock isn't going to magically move, so you got to be patient and understand those things, right?
Yep. Yes, I think that's really, those are, being patient. I still, for my clients, I'm still providing a very detailed calendar, what each week can bring. But, even little things like rain, not just recently we got rain. That said, I'm on a project right now in the North Park area. We've got clay soil out there. That set us back 3 days, and now I've got equipment sitting there. So there's a lot of things that can come up. I think I recently had someone reach out to me and they said, well, pavers. I just want you to install a paver driveway. I priced out the pavers. Here's the cost. Can you do it for this amount? So he sends me an email with the amount of the pavers, the cost of the pavers. And I said, we've got no delivery fees in here. We don't have, 6 to 7 inches of road base, 1 inch of sand. You touched on it, Tiger. There's so many different things that go into, let's just say, installing pavers. Or like you touched on the lawn. Okay, well, what happens, let's say, kids have to go to soccer practice. Well, now you've installed the lawn. Well, who's watering it? Right? There's another day. Let's make sure we've got irrigation to it. So, I think there's a lot of different things. I think, I do want to say homeowners this is still a project that you can take on. If you are looking to do it, I do promote licensed contractors, depending on the size of your project, but you can take this on as a homeowner, but really do a lot of homework, really research, read, ask questions, go to local landscape, designer chapters. Even landscape architects have great information as well.
It's funny.
Sorry, go ahead, Tiger.
It's funny. You brought up in this has always been something kind of funny for me. Okay. And I'm going to get on a soapbox here, Danielle, for a minute, but I'm sorry.
Well, you got about a minute to the break.
Okay. Well, this will lead us into break then. But, at the garden center, people come in all the time and ask the staff questions. What to plant, where to plant, how to plant it. And the staff goes through wonderfully on educating these people on all of this stuff, right? And then they take it home and they plant it. And it's funny because we live in this tipping culture where, everybody wants a tip. Well, our staff never reaches out for tips, and I'm not saying you should tip them because that's part of their job. But it's like they're giving them so much information when you go to a garden center that's where you should be appreciative of someone's experience and knowledge sharing with you and stuff like that. Not making my sandwich. All right.
I think you're just complaining about the people who come and get the information and then go buy it,
and you never see them again. Okay,
exactly.
on that note, we're gonna take a break. Back with Danielle after these messages. This great information. Our fine supporters on Biz Talk Radio, the Biz Talk Radio and TV network, and then back, of course, here on Facebook Live. So do stay with us. It is, let's see, I guess it's Saturday morning if you're listening to us live, or maybe Saturday afternoon. Doesn't matter. We are Garden America, no matter what time of the day you listen or tune in. Back after these messages. Okay, back from the break. Those on Biz Talk Radio, this is the final segment of hour number 1. We come back after your top of the hour news at about 6 minutes after. Hopefully you can catch us then. In the meantime, we keep rolling along. How is that landscaping project coming along? Have you thought about it? Have you done it? Have you thought about all these things? Have you thought about what can go wrong, Tiger?
Yeah, so we're chatting with Danielle with Botanically Crafted. And, before the break, we were just chatting about where to go, how to stay motivated, where to go to get more information. And, Danielle, you had mentioned, local garden centers, local clubs, organizations. The one thing I will say about plant people is they love to share experience. They love to share knowledge. So if you are interested in doing a project, reach out to your local garden clubs, your master gardeners associations. Danielle, you've mentioned a number of times the local water authorities are huge in providing people plans, plants, just all kinds of stuff because, the local water authorities are, number one, trying to conserve water wherever you're at. Yeah. And number two, they're trying to promote clean water wherever they're at. So they're always trying to make sure that their people are planting plants that are going to do well in the area. Let's take us to kind of like the next step now, Danielle. And I think for a lot of people, this is where it all, goes south. Your beautiful landscape design is installed. You're happy with it. The contractor did an excellent job, and now they moved on to the next project, and it's now in your hands. I equate this to when you're a new parent and you're at the hospital, you've just given, birth to your first child.
And there's no instructions on how to raise the
child. And all
of
a sudden they put you in that car and say, good luck. What do you recommend for people with their new landscapes, Danielle?
So have your mother come over and help, right?
Yeah, this is, and I do not do maintenance, so I really try to educate the clients. This is actually probably one of the biggest areas that I'm spending a lot of time with my client. When I'm finished with a project, I do a post-construction walkthrough with them, and we go over, the landscape, really focusing in on plants and what they can expect from things like weeds. We have some really awful weeds in our area, things like nutsedge, Bermuda. They can be a nightmare to handle. So I think just expectations. There is no garden. My belief, there's no garden in Southern California that does not need maintenance. Whether you've got all low water, succulents, cactus, whatever you may have, everything needs maintenance. I think just setting, even a checklist might come in handy here too. Irrigation scheduling. So, seasonally adjusting your automatic irrigation schedules. We do not need to water as much in winter as we do in summer. making sure that you're getting ahead of things like weeds. Okay, so if your contractor just installed your plants, has done with the job, get out there that next week. Start looking around. Engage with your landscape. If you are looking to install a garden, a landscape, you want to be engaging in your outdoor environment. Look at your plants. It's, a lot of people say, well, I can't tell if it needs water or if it's overwatered. Go out in your garden space often. I say at least a few times a week. You will start to pick up on things. Look things up, research. I think that's really key. I think getting, weeds are just such a problem. That's the biggest thing I get callbacks from clients is like, okay, where do I go now? Check with local landscape maintenance companies. The maintenance is key. That garden could quickly churn itself within no time, depending on what season that you're installing, or within a year. There is work to be done after the installation. So, things like continuing to mulch once a year, that's a great idea. Practicing integrated pest management. And there's different sites you can look to online, but maintenance is key. Clients, I try to really educate clients. If you are not going to be hiring someone, I'm always welcome to come back and discuss with clients what they can expect. But it's a lot of work. Maintenance is key.
Yeah, and in people, I think the biggest area that people need to really consider that is, it's one thing to kind of like have a plant bed in your landscape, and you can go through and you can weed it and you can maintain it. But in those areas where you plant ground covers, when you plant a ground cover, you're planting these small plants 8 inches apart, 10 inches apart, whatever it is, and you're waiting for them to fill in. Well, if you let weeds get into that area and then they take over, now the ground cover isn't going to grow in because the weeds have combated it. Usually these are large areas that need to be maintained regularly. And usually these are areas that have not been maintained in the past. So there's a large population of weeds already there, or weed seed, that the minute you start watering, now they all come up, right? So whenever you have a large ground cover area, whether it's a slope or maybe just a flat area that you're planting, a ground cover in, I think, I mean, you can have people out there for 6 or 7 hours pulling the weeds. Because the other problem, too, is because you've planted this ground cover, it's much more difficult to go in there and use an herbicide or spray because you don't want to kill the new plants that you just planted as well. Hey, Danielle, we're going to take another break. When we get back from this break, we'll continue chatting with Danielle.
We got a little bit. We got a little bit of time. We can stretch another minute, maybe.
Okay. I thought you.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I gave you kind of a false signal there.
Well, we have a comment from Jose that we could. Mention
Okay.
here.
Let's do that, John.
He says that whenever he sees a beautiful landscape, he immediately says it doesn't just take care of itself. He knows there's a gardener, a client that's always out there working on it in order to maintain it. And then we also had a comment from Carla in Huntington Beach, and she says that cities should hire planners like Danielle because they're working on the area behind her house, and she doesn't know.
Yes.
She questions the plant choices, so I'm sure cities do that. So maybe when we come back from the break, Danielle can fill us in a little bit about whether they actually do and maybe whether or not she's had any experience with urban development.
Will do. And again, John, thank you for stretching time. John's been doing this a long time. We have to make sure that we stay on time for the network breaks and keep everything in a format the way it should be. So that said, we are going to take a break. In fact, Biz Talk Radio News coming up right now. We come back in about 6 minutes after. More with landscaping and just exactly what you should or shouldn't be doing. And maybe we'll do some more refining with landscaping and wrap things up with Danielle. That's coming up after the news break on Biz Talk Radio. Those of us on Facebook Live a bit quicker. So do stay with us. This is Garden America. Brian Main, John Bagnasker, Tiger Palafox, and we are back after the top of the hour news and Facebook Live. Stay with us. All righty, if you're tuned in on Biz Talk Radio, welcome one and all. It's about 6 minutes after the hour as far as you're concerned, and this is hour number 2 for the rest of us on Facebook Live. It is one big, long, happy live show here as we talk landscaping with our good friend Danielle Tiger, and we continue.
Yeah, and before the break, Danielle, John had mentioned one of our listeners, Carla, is having some, it sounds like large-scale work done near her home. And, you have a little bit of experience with city planning. Where do you think cities fit in with this idea of, true landscape planning and also development, in their projects?
Oh, man, I have a couple opinions on this. I think it is, if you've ever driven on the 15 over in the kind of the not Rancho Bernardo area, near Carroll Canyon, coming up right on Mira Mesa area, there's a particular tree that I see often planted. It's called a Cirrus forest pansy. And this kind of touches on right plant, right place, hardiness zones, things like that. It's a moderate tree. It needs moderate water. And here's where my kind of opinions come in. It seems confusing to homeowners, especially when you have things like, approved city trees for parkways. You see sometimes the city's planting, moderate to even I've seen high water trees. We do not have enough trees. So let me say that first. Trees are wonderful. We need more trees. But using appropriate plants is, Carla seems like she's bringing up some great, questions. It is appropriate. You need appropriate planting. I have seen cities use trees that are not on approved city tree lists, which I think makes it very confusing for people, especially when we're in a drought. We're looking to save water, but we're also looking to aesthetically and appropriately plant. I think that's don't know how to actually, I think there's being more consistent. And, when you go to these city county websites, they reflect one particular species, but things are obviously being planted that are not on those approved lists.
Yeah, it's like they worked hard on putting this list together. Then they should follow the list down the road, right? Like, they probably paid a good amount of money for someone to do research on, what plants, what trees, and then to not, use those in all the future developments, they don't seem to make sense, right? Like as far as, why would they not follow their own guidance? Hey, Danielle, I wanted to be able to give you a moment also here to kind of plug, what you're doing. How is it that people would get a hold of you? Website, social media, what do you got?
Yeah, website's great, botanicallycrafted.com. Also Instagram, social media. Instagram's a big one for us. That's probably the best way. All of our company contact information is on the website and on our Instagram. That's the best way, but my phone number, my direct line is on that website, so people can get a hold that way or email.
And you do projects big and small, front yards, backyards, both yards, apartment buildings, right?
I focus primarily on residential landscape construction, design and construction. I occasionally will design larger projects like apartments, things like that. And I can install, but I tend to really focus. I really like the connection with the client directly, the families. So it's more residential.
And, you're mostly, here in San Diego County, but I mean, if somebody's willing to fly you up and put you in a hotel, you'll travel, right?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, well, lots of fun. Danielle, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Did we get all the answers question there, John?
I think we did.
Yeah, I think we did.
Okay,
We're
perfect.
We're in good shape.
All right, Danielle, thanks for joining us again. Have a great rest of the weekend.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I thought I was talking to my wife there when we first started because Shannon started out in real estate after our kids were grown, and then she went into nursing.
But she kept going, huh?
She's a nurse practitioner now, but she let me do the landscaping. Yeah. So
it is so true when somebody has a vision about what they want, and I think a good landscape architect or somebody like Danielle sits down and says, here are all the things that can go wrong with your vision. Not to say that it can't happen, but let's look at the do's and don'ts. Let's look at the positives and negatives. And then I think after a conversation like that, you might sit back and go, okay, well, how about if we just do this then? Okay, that's a little more feasible.
Yeah.
We can do this, but it's the maintenance. It's paying attention to your plants. I know that we all do. We go outside. I can notice if something's a bit off.
Well, she said check them out 2 or 3 times a week. You know, I'm out there in the
Every
morning
day.
and then I'm back in the afternoon,
Yeah.
wondering what's changed in those few hours.
Exactly, every day. It's just being, detail oriented and noticing changes in your garden.
Yeah, and I think that, that idea of working with a design builder is a big part of that because, during the design phase, they're going to give you that input as far as this is going to be a really hard landscape to maintain. Are you ready for this? This is going to be a really expensive part of
Or
your
we can simplify
design.
it for
Yeah.
you.
And that's one of the things Tiger is so good at. If you call him out to look at your landscape, he'll make suggestions. If you let him know what you want, he'll say, well, you don't really want that there, but you could put it over here, and in this area, do you like this?
Right.
Give you options of what to do.
Yeah, because a lot of people wouldn't know if it needs full sun, partial shade.
Well, not only that, the maintenance afterwards,
Yeah.
like he's talking about. If it's something that's going to drop leaves or flowers all over your patio or
That's
your
just
car.
like we talked about, HOA homeowners associations and the various trees. Yeah, the tree looks nice, but look at all the stuff that's falling off the tree, all the berries, and it
Exactly.
stains the sidewalk.
Yesterday I was out on a customer's house, and he wants a pepper tree installed in this area. And
Good luck.
well, no, I mean, I said, hey, you've done your research because he called me out. And he knew exactly what he wanted, and I was like, have you done your research? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I know.
He doesn't mind the mess.
He goes, we addressed all that stuff. He goes, it's in the back. It can drop right into the canyon. I'm not worried about roots. I'm not worried. He goes, I have another pepper tree. There is another pepper tree on another part of his yard. And I'm like, hey, as long as you know what you're getting, no big deal. Because his problem is really good for a pepper tree solution. He needs a big, fast-growing, screening tree.
California or Brazilian?
What's the one that is the smaller leaf?
The one that is kind of weeping?
Yes.
That's California.
So it's that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's almost like saying, this is not my first child.
yeah.
This is the second one on the way.
And again, I asked the questions. He had all the answers. He was aware of it. He knew what he's getting into. Great. We'll do it. But
I'm using that all over my hillside, by the way.
Yeah,
And by the road.
right.
Except mine's been mulched, chopped up, gone through the chipper, and it's going over the side of the hill.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at though is that if he had said no, I'm not familiar with pepper trees.
Right.
I just saw online that they're fast growing screening trees. I'd be like, all right, hey, here's some info.
Here, sit
Here's
down.
yeah, exactly. Here's what to expect. Kind of a thing. So
By the way, Tiger Sue's complimenting what we're wearing, but she really likes Brian's orange
Let's see what
sweatshirt.
it is.
orange? It's the coloration.
It's the
she wa-
coloration.
and she wants to know what it says. So
San
it
Diego
says San
State.
Diego Aztecs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian used to be the announcer for the Aztec
Football, basketball.
football and
22
basketball
years,
games.
and I used to bother Tiger at night.
Yep.
Because where Tiger lived, it would echo off the stadium in the canyon.
I could hear Brian.
So funny.
So you stopped doing that just because of Tiger's complaint.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, too many complaints. Tiger kicked off those complaints, and his neighbors followed.
Oh, wow. Can you imagine?
That's so funny. Go ahead, John.
You know the area that Danielle was describing with the
Carroll Canyon? I get off
Your
there
house.
every day.
That's Brian's exit.
That's my neighborhood.
Yeah, and those forest pansy redbuds. Jose says that he sees that and he really appreciates whoever worked those redbuds into the design because it's something you don't see that often. And they're really nice trees. I love redbuds.
Yeah. Oh, love a red bud tree. And, I think Danielle was mentioning, like, it's about, incorporating what works. And, I like a redbud tree. You have that really cool one, too. The droopy one, don't you? Or the one that, what was the one you
the
got
one
from
I
me?
got from you. It's same color as forest pansy, but it's called Ruby Fountain or something like that.
Ruby Fountain, yes.
Right.
It is
Yes.
break time, ladies and gentlemen. Got a lot of show left, though. This is not the end, not even close. We're about halfway through.
Oh,
so do
good.
stay with us. Those
Got a
on
lot
Biz
to
Talk
talk
Radio.
about.
John's got a lot to talk about. And Facebook Live, questions, comments, whatever's on your mind. We're going to take a break for our friends on Biz Talk Radio, the Biz Talk Radio and TV network. After these messages, it's more Garden America here on your weekend or whenever you're listening. Stay with us. We promised that we'd return, and we kept our promise. We are back here on Garden America, Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. We're glad you could join us. Before the break, John said he had a lot more to say, so I'm not going to stop him, Tiger.
Who was that said I shall return?
You mean
Arnold
I'll be back?
Schwarzenegger?
No.
I'll be back.
No, it was I
Terminator?
shall return. It was like...
Is that Jesus Christ?
Winston
I shall
Churchill?
return?
he may have been the first, now that you mention it. It's like Lord Nelson or somebody like that. Admiral Nelson?
Could be.
Or George MacArthur.
Patton?
Douglas MacArthur.
Doug. We called him Doug.
Dougie.
Napoleon?
Dougie boy. Could be. Anyway,
I don't
John.
know. As I get older, I remember things.
But you wanted to pontificate more, so please do.
Oh, yeah, we were coming out of the last break. We were talking about redbuds and how much we like them. And there's other varieties of redbuds. Now, we're not talking about the native redbuds because Cercis occidentalis is the western redbud. A little more drought tolerant.
Yes.
There's that 4.0 grade point average.
Yep.
And they're really good trees for most of Southern California, going up into Northern California. But the Cercis Florida or Canadensis is the eastern redbud, and it's got a lot of varieties now. And forest pansy's one of them with the purple leaves, but there's one called flamethrower.
Yeah.
That looks like it's fall colors because they're all mixed up.
Yep.
And
It looks like a flame where it's got like the yellows and the oranges and the reds all on a bract on a stem,
And then there's one called Rising Sun. Which
I haven't
has
seen that one.
Got kind of the landscape that you did for me on that hill by the side of my driveway. At the top, I put one of each of those.
Okay.
So they look really good. And in Southern California, to be honest, the eastern redwood, but I don't think blooms as long as the western. So I would try to pick out ones with colorful leaves to add interest the rest of the year.
Yeah, because so the way I kind of like to put a redbud in a landscape too is because the way it blooms, you need to kind of have a backdrop. So for people that are not familiar with the redbud tree, it blooms before it leaves. So all these, what color do you call that? Because I described it as bright pink, but it's kind of a bright pink purple, right?
What's
flower?
That? The flower?
The flower itself.
Yeah, maybe a magenta.
Magenta. That would be a good.
A bright magenta.
A bright magenta, though.
Yeah.
And so it's got all these little bright magenta flowers all along these dark stems. And so when you have a backdrop of like a green hedge or a green tree, it really pops and it's really good. But as John mentioned, that flowering period for us is a pretty short window. So now if you have these trees with either the burgundy foliage or all the ones that he's describing now that have like, and the cool thing that he's describing, you guys think when we say, oh, it's got the fall color, it has the fall color when it's fall. No. This is fall color year round from start to finish.
Long, right.
It's going through this yellow, green, orange, red leaf that it looks like it's fall, but it could be the middle of summer. And so, again, if you put it up against like a green backdrop, it really pops in a landscape. And it's a medium to small size tree. So it can be incorporated into even a small space.
If I were to approach you, if I had a big house or a yard or some property, to do my landscape architect work, I think you would like me as a customer or a client. Because here's what I would say. Well, because I'll let you do your work. Much like when somebody comes to me and says, I want a commercial recorded, what's the best aspect? How should we approach it? I would tell you, okay, I want a lot of color. I'd like fairly low maintenance, but I can take care of it. I got a little slope here. I'd like a couple of trees. You know the area. What do you suggest?
Well, he would come up with the flamethrower redbud, and he'd say, Brian, this redbud's for you.
This redbud.
See, I told you before he spent a lot of time doing a show prep this morning.
He does.
But you just talked about the backdrop and colors and things like that, something I would never have thought of. And then you would come up with that. And you would add on to my vision because it's got, first of all, a vision may not be practical for somebody. You may say, that's kind of a fantasy. We'll need to scale this down and make it more practical. But I would just say, look, this is kind of what I want. Go ahead. And then we go back and maybe refine it. But you got to let you do your work.
Well, Tiger, your job in Southern California is a lot different maybe than landscapers in the rest of the country because
of course
you have to be concerned about 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Where, if you're in Island Park, Idaho today,
right,
all you care about is white.
Well, and they get a hard reset button every year.
Yeah.
Where they're at. Meaning
they start over basically.
They do. And so in those areas where they get those severe cold temperatures, all those plants that they planted through the spring die. And then you get to start over again next year.
Well, the annuals.
Yeah,
right.
But I mean and then you start over again next year. And so every year they can reinvent themselves. Where us, we have this my landscape is a 12-month 24-year program.
And when do I pull out the ones that are starting to look a little straggly and put in some new ones?
No wonder people get so excited in those climates around April, May.
Because they've been dealing with nothing for months.
It's just a brand new birth. Where us, look, it's January. Yeah, it's cold, 35, 40 at night, but you still go outside and it could be any time of the year.
That's why you sit in front of the fireplace in Michigan looking through seed catalogs and plant catalogs.
I've got a tomato right now on my back fence that's been there for 2 years. And I'm just, what is it doing?
It keeps on going.
What is it doing?
You mean, unlike the ones that you bring me every year in the pots, we enjoy them for one season.
Yeah.
And, pretty much, because I have no place to plant them in the ground.
Yeah.
But they do well.
Well, I was surprised when I first moved here from Michigan because in Michigan, people really valued geraniums, red zonal geraniums. Uh-huh. And I came out here and people were going, oh, they're so ratty looking. And I didn't realize that in Michigan, they get new plants going every single year.
Right.
And they die in the winter. And then, Brian, we've talked about how people used to sometimes pull them out of the ground and hang them upside down in their basement and try to plant them again in the spring.
Right.
But out here, they don't die. And they'd get budworm, that snails would eat the leaves, and you'd have this plant that in Michigan was maybe a foot all the way around. Out here was like 3-4 feet straggling.
Yep.
Leaves full of holes.
It's its 4th season.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I really associate that with which plant is it that they just get so old and leggy and people don't realize it here. Well, I mean, anything that kind of like, for instance, the hydrangea, I know that Shannon loves hydrangeas,
right?
But they don't ever really go dormant all the time.
Not really.
And then they look bad and people go, I hate hydrangeas because they look bad. I'm like, yeah, it's because you're looking at them in February and they're not supposed to look good.
Yeah, mine don't look very nice either now. They don't look that good, but they will. They will look good. Speaking of good, we've got a good break coming up for you. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live, so do stay with us. And again, we are wide open for questions, comments on our Facebook page here because we are Garden America. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have returned. Again, we invite you to go to our website, gardenamerica.com. On the homepage, guess what you'll see? The itinerary to the trip to Costa Rica, happening in April. It's going to happen, John.
April.
We're talking sloths, monkeys, caimans, volcanoes, coffee plantation, orchids, surf, beach, hotels, plane flights. What else?
Brian, Tiger, John.
Oh, my.
So you're promising we're going to see one of the deadly sins.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's sloth, right?
Yep.
The sloth. Yeah, the sloth. Yeah, the itinerary, when you look at it, how can you not go? Go to gardenamerica.com. Check it out. And I believe if Daniel's still listening, he's going to put a link right there on a Facebook page.
Well, no matter where you are in the country,
There you are.
even here in San Diego, it's cold.
38 degrees when I drove in this morning.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to Costa Rica.
April 21st through the 29th. Now, we leave on the 21st. We get there the same day. That's kind of a meet and greet. Check into your hotel. The real action starts the next day.
And we're going to a coffee plantation.
Right off the bat. Well, that's
Got to wake us up.
That's got to wake us up and set the stage for the rest of the trip.
I've been to coffee plantations in Cuba. That's the only time I've been to a coffee plantation. So I'm really interested to see what these look like in Costa Rica. Because I would imagine Costa Rica produces a lot more coffee because they're doing a lot of exporting. I'm not sure if Cuba does as much exporting.
By the way, I talked to somebody at Colette about because it's a 5-hour flight. We leave here from San Diego. By the way, who else is leaving from San Diego? Anybody that lives in another state, do you plan on flying to San Diego and then leaving from San Diego to Costa Rica? Let us know if that's the case.
Yeah.
But I
can hang out before.
Yes, so it's a 5-hour flight. But I talked to somebody at Colette.
You and Dana have that spare bedroom, right? If anybody's going to come down here.
Where's that now?
Don't you have a spare bedroom for somebody who's out of state?
Oh, I got more than one spare bedroom. Bring everybody. Bring your family, your friends, your aunt, and your uncle. We got plenty of space.
John's house has spare bedrooms. John's house has spare wings.
He's spare wing. But anyway, so he was under the impression, as I was, that there might be an hour difference in Costa Rica because as you're flying down, you're kind of heading a little bit east. You're going southeast.
Yeah.
So they might be on mountain time, which means the flight would be only 4 hours. We'd arrive at 3 o'clock local time. That's my guess. Somebody smarter than me may be able to chime in and say, no, that's not the case.
When you talk about you've got time travel and alternate universes, I start to get dizzy.
Are we flying down in the DeLorean?
Oh, how about, let's do that. So anyway, go to gardenamerica.com, check it out. Now, there's a lot of other good things on our website as well, but that is the main course right now that we're selling.
I think we've got about 5 or 6 seats left open, and we'd like to fill those up.
We'd like to, we would. We'd like to fill those up. It's in April. Check it out.
Yeah. And, it's going to be a good trip with a good time. Good hotels.
Oh, yeah.
We're not just doing hostels like the last trip where we just threw everybody into a bus and we all shared rooms.
We turned to Bruce and said, "Good luck."
Yeah, we're going.
Sharing rooms was kind of fun.
yeah, but we're going big this time. Nice hotels.
Going big time.
Yeah.
What else?
So, hey, big news. Today is the cold weather back east, though, right? Negatives and just absolutely freezing. Man, I can't imagine what it'd be like in one of those areas.
John and I both have our filters on right now about the cold weather and record cold breaking weather across the country.
We do?
Yeah, I'll tell you during the break.
Oh.
Okay.
But yeah, it's interesting talking about how we can go outside today and garden and no big deal, and that's the furthest thing from their minds across the country.
We did have a comment. I don't know if that's what you're referring to mention, but I'm thinking it's probably not good to bring it up.
Yeah, you're thinking like I am.
Okay.
We speak the same language. Telepathically, we're pretty right on.
I'm so focused on the show that I'm dedicated to our craft here. And you guys over here just bantering back and forth, chit-chatting. Sometimes I don't even know if you guys know what's going on during our show.
What's the term? You're the
ballast?
You're
creating stability in this ship.
You're the straw that stirs the drink.
Oh, I'm the straw
that stirs the drink.
I
as far
stir
as
the
keeping
drink?
us on the air, keeping us focused, keeping us level. Where John,
I thought you were meaning like I mess up the pod.
No, we're the drink, and you're the straw that stirs it. In terms of keeping us on live and making sure the video and everything else works.
Oh, okay.
I'll handle the audio and the network radio.
Brian's got show notes. I don't know if you ever look at them, but one of the notes, right there.
Yeah, right there.
It says, "Don't forget to include Tiger."
Yeah.
Palafox, eh?
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Don't forget.
So anyway, I asked you at the beginning of the show, and I didn't get an answer because I think we were doing something else. But What did you do this week? Did you do anything around your home? I know you're always working, so you're installing things. Probably feels like you're gardening nonstop.
You know what? This week actually has been focused on. So we're building that ADU in the
how's
backyard.
that coming?
I'm going to take a picture when I get home. I'll send it to you guys. It's a full-fledged house now.
Wow. How many square feet?
500 square feet.
Wow.
You're building it or having it built?
No. We're having it built. I've done some of
Now
it.
that's
I've
down
done
at
some
the
of it.
bottom of your property, right?
Yes, exactly.
So beyond the swimming pool.
Right, beyond the swimming pool.
What was the original intent?
So, I mean, the original intent and the intent is, so our house is small, meaning we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,300 square foot house. And, you know, we have a lot of family out of town and we have a lot of friends out of town and they come and they want to stay with us and hang out, which is wonderful. And we love it. It's always been tight.
Idea.
And so this is a place for those people to come and visit us and be able to have
Your
a place.
place isn't much bigger than ours.
No, it's not. And so, you know, already with a family of 4 and 2 dogs, it's tight. So
that's what I think the key was, is the family said, you know, you've got those 2 giant dogs.
it's their
now.
house. It's their house.
Yeah, we're not going to stay with them.
Janine asked me, are we going to put a dog door? And I go, no, there is no need for them to go into that house. Like they have a yard.
Doggy door.
Yeah, they have a yard. They have their own house. So, anyways, we've been really focused on that. And it's coming a long ways, and we worked on some I worked on some drainage projects and some other things to go with
We'd like to see some pictures.
Yeah, because I'm doing a lot of like the work that I can do, and then I'm bringing in builders for the work that is not.
Now, did you have to get what kind of permits, that kind of thing?
Yes, fully permitted. It had plans, permits, all that kind of stuff.
John knows
he's
what that
not going to
costs.
announce on the radio that he's doing it with no permit.
Well, nobody knows where you live.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was going to ask how you're going to treat the landscaping around it. Are you going to landscape it like it was a normal house, or is it going to be natural, or what are you planning?
So behind it, I have this slope. And if you remember in your old backyard, actually, it's kind of like your slope where, you know, that steep slope from your back where you're going to put your lawn area down to the knot garden.
Right.
Okay. It's like that big slope. So I'm going to terrace that.
Oh.
And here's my debate right now. Do I put fruit trees on those terrace levels, or do I put plumerias on those terrace
Let's
levels?
talk about the practicality of your vision as it pertains to landscaping.
Okay.
Well, here's
And is that going to be manageable?
Here's pluses and minuses, I would say, for fruit trees. You put in fruit trees. Pluses, you get a lot of fresh fruit.
Yeah.
A minus might be that, are you going to get tired of picking it?
Yeah,
Is it just
right.
going to fall and rot?
Yeah.
And you know, fruit trees maybe that you would use a lot, maybe up closer to the house.
Yeah, like I already have an orange, a lemon, and a lime already on my property. Love them, perfect.
Right.
And
they're evergreen. Were you thinking citrus, or were you thinking some deciduous?
The only citrus that, and in quotation marks, I was considering was an avocado, but I think it's way too big. I know there's the dwarf varieties, but I was definitely thinking more stone fruits. You know, apricot. You know, maybe a peach or something like that. But so I'm leaning more towards just putting in plumerias. But we'll see. Maybe some fruit, just to have something else down there.
Is your backyard as big or bigger than your house?
Is my backyard?
Like
my
square
backyard
footage of your backyard compared and the amount of
is
room you
way
have
bigger.
outside.
Is
It
my
way-
house? My backyard is way bigger.
Well, that's the
the
way they
pool,
used
the
to
pool
build them.
area is bigger than my house.
That's the way they used to build them. All yard in a smaller house.
Well, you've got a big yard. How
Yeah.
much property
Yeah.
do you have?
I don't know that off the
It's
top of my
over
head.
half an acre, right?
Yeah, so my house is 1,300 square feet. I imagine we can probably fit 4 of my houses on the lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good size.
So, yeah. So I'll take
you
some
have
pictures.
nice views of the canyon
Oh.
from the back of your house.
And from the ADU that we're building.
Oh, that'll be perfect.
It is absolutely gorgeous. It's the funny. The kitchen window probably has one of the best views of the ADU. So it's the window that overlooks the sink and you can just see straight down the canyon. There's a bedroom window that has something similar to that. But it's kind of funny that the kitchen window has the best view in the house.
Well, you probably spend more time in the kitchen than other rooms, right?
I imagine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
not you, but
not me, but
right, other people.
yeah. Oh, but something's kind of funny that are exciting. So your dandelion bush, dandelion tree that you gave me.
Dandelion tree.
Oh,
I just noticed.
Brandon, you always say that dandelions don't grow on trees, but they do.
Do they? I want to hear more about that after the break. One more segment coming up. Do stay with us on Facebook Live and Biz Talk Radio. This is Garden America. We are back. Garden America has returned. Tiger says that you are chilling and listening. We like it when you chill and listen.
Garden America and chill.
Garden America and chill. Netflix and chill. Garden America and chill.
Oh, I never heard that. That's one of their promos, huh?
Well, when somebody says
Yeah.
you want to come over and watch Netflix and chill, you can read into that.
So I never have anyone that wants to chill or watch Netflix with me.
Hey, so dandelion tree.
Yeah.
Before the break.
Yes.
That plant has now resurrected and is absolutely gorgeous.
How tall is it now?
It's not that tall. It's only maybe like 3 feet tall, maybe.
But bushier, right?
But bushier. But it's one of those plants that goes. I mean, I feel like dormant in November. Maybe October, it starts to look really...
Almost like a plumeria dormant, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, like looks really ratty. Okay, and I'm like, ooh, did I... And I'm always like looking at it like, did I do something wrong? Is it dying? And then right now, the foliage, massive leaves, just pristine
What a great
green.
wintertime plant.
Yeah, and then it's going to get the, yellow flowers on it here, probably another month or so.
Now, you know what's interesting about plumerias? We talked about this last season. It was kind of an off season for plumerias, late blooms, so on and so forth. One of mine didn't bloom at all, still looks the same. But the one that bloomed still looks good.
Yeah.
Lots of leaves, and it's not blooming, but it doesn't look like you normally would think it would look like this time of the year.
Yeah.
It's not shabby.
That might change though in this short time because it's getting cold.
Abruptly.
Cold. So, yeah.
I have plumeria and
Yeah, I was going to say John has plumeria envy because his is
mine didn't even leaf out.
yeah.
Well, my one of mine did not leaf. The one that you gave me the year before didn't leaf out at all. It still looks the same as it did 12 months ago. It's not dead.
I have
It's viable.
My paper whites have come up. Some of them have flowered. Some of them have not flowered yet. My freesias are all coming back right now. So if you guys remember my freesias along the pool, that I let go crazy. They're all foliage now, no flowers yet. But the paper whites have been blooming. Yeah.
There's I'm trying to think of the name of the company that we used to have. Scott was on the show several times.
Scott's?
No, Scott.
The guy's name was Scott that you had on the show.
Kunst.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it was Old House Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
It's they have heirloom bulbs, and they have a white freesia that naturalizes here in California, and extremely fragrant. One of the most fragrant of the freesias, because they're all fragrant, but some not quite so much, especially the doubles, maybe not as much as the singles. But if you go to Old House Gardens, you can Google them and can mail order. But their white freesia from California is a great one for naturalizing in warm areas. I remember in Michigan trying to grow ranunculus. Just no chance. They just don't do it.
Is it too cold?
Oh, yeah, they won't overwinter for sure, but if you try to plant them in the spring, there's not enough time for the roots to develop, and you might get a flower, but usually not.
So because there you can plant them in May, okay? And
Right.
so you're saying it won't grow enough before October?
No, it won't grow enough before it gets hot, and they go
Oh,
dormant.
so then it gets way too hot.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm thinking ranunculus.
Because here they bloom in the spring.
yeah,
when it's still cool, right?
Right. So, okay. So it gets way too hot then. So
Yeah.
it goes straight from cold
Yeah.
to hot for them, so there's not enough of a time window for them to actually grow.
Yeah, Michigan was all Dutch bulbs.
Okay.
No South African bulbs that I can think of do well there.
Yeah.
Here in Southern California, we have freesias and ixias and watsonias and things like that are fairly common.
Yeah.
and do really well. Ranunculus are from Iran, right?
I was going to say they're Middle Eastern, aren't
Yeah,
they?
because a common name is Persian buttercups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One common name.
You're my little Persian buttercup.
The just keep those comments
Yeah,
Okay.
for during the breaks.
Oh, was
Brian.
my mic on? I'm sorry. Golly.
Hot mic?
Yeah, there's a lot of actually like kind of like Middle Eastern bulbs that do well here that they'll find like you
Well,
you
tulips
mentioned
are Middle Eastern bulbs.
yeah. Wait a minute, what?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. Where'd you think they came from? Holland.
Holland.
Yeah,
Denmark.
exactly.
Yeah, no.
Windmills.
Yeah,
Tulips are?
Yeah.
Like, are they found in like the mountains or?
Do you remember the country that has the most tulips of anywhere in the world?
No,
Iceland.
Antarctica.
No, but you would think Holland, right?
Yeah.
It's Turkey.
Oh yeah, Turkey.
Isn't that like when
They have a lot of bulbs.
this is kind of off topic, but kind of the same analogy in terms of you wouldn't think. When we landed in Milan the first time we went to Europe, well, maybe the second time, obviously, too. When we landed, they talked about all the rice fields.
Right.
And some of the biggest rice fields in the world in Italy, in Milan. And we're like, really? You wouldn't think here.
Yeah, we saw those from the train as we were zipping through there.
Yeah.
You would think that's parts of Asia.
Asia,
for sure.
exactly.
That's all you'd see is rice.
Yeah, just like you're talking about bulbs in the Middle East.
Yeah, yeah. You're talking tulips. You're talking Turkey. There's a lot of species too of tulips, and tulips. Remember, they were used as money during the Middle Ages, especially when the virus in the flower developed the stripes and the variegations. I mean, it would be a fortune to buy just one bulb.
I was always fascinated by tulips as a kid. This bowl kind of looking flower, and it's so different than most other flowers that bloom.
Yeah, it's almost a
Tulips.
waste to try to grow them in Southern
It
California.
is.
Yeah.
It really is, right? I mean, I guess you would say that about some things on the East Coast too, is a waste. Like we just mentioned geraniums, like they're just for that and then go away, and that's kind of Southern California with tulips, right?
Well, guess what, gang? That's it. We've got exactly a minute till we say goodbye, au revoir, adios, sayonara.
All right.
So no show next week.
No show next week. So
Oh,
And
I'm
then-
glad you just reminded me because I already forgot.
And then we're back the week after.
the week after.
And then
John's
John
gone, but we're here.
is going to be gone the
So
week
it's a
after
great
that.
chance to go to our YouTube channel and watch previous shows. You can make sure you tell Alexa to play Garden America podcast. It seems to work better than radio show. I found out. Play Garden America podcast, Alexa, as all the Alexas go off. Okay, that's it, guys. Anything else, John?
No, I just want to tell all our listeners to, especially if you're in Southern California, a great time to get out there, pull some weeds, do some gardening. And if you're in Idaho, great time to chill.
Great time to chill.
Literally.
Yeah.
Netflix and chill. Garden
Hang
America
out.
and chill. For the entire crew, I'm Brian Main, Tiger Palafox, John Begnasco, Daniel, our webmaster. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you for supporting our show. Those on Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live, we appreciate you. This is Garden America. Have a safe week.